Okay, welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to talk to you about the hydrogen truck initiative in Switzerland, or H2 mobility in Switzerland. And the goal, or my goal in this presentation, is to talk more about a case study, if you will, or an achieved project that can be, or that was achieved through collaboration between market competitors and different players in various industry sectors, rather than focusing too much on the technology side itself. I will have some slides about it, and of course, if there are any questions, at the end, I'm glad to answer them. But for me, it's really to give a bit of a silver lining in a challenging environment and what can be achieved through collaboration, and also, that can be easily applied to, let's say, battery electric trucks or whatsoever. So yeah, where did the journey begin? So the journey actually began back in 2008 when the company I'm working with, we are one of the biggest retailers in Switzerland, when we decided to, formulate our CO2 vision, it was called back then, and the goal was to achieve CO2 neutrality by 2023 and actually reduce the amount of emission by 50%. Back then, it was still okay to call yourself CO2 neutral. Today, we don't do that anymore. So we also signed up, committed to the Science-Based Target Initiative. So our goal is also to reach net zero and not to call ourselves CO2 neutral. But back then, time was a bit different, so it was okay. So shortly after that, we started to, go ahead, implementing first measures also in the transportation sector. So shortly after that, our truck fleet was already operating at 40% biodiesel. We actually bought a freight train company, so we are operating our own freight trains where we deliver goods from bigger warehouses to big warehouses. And also in one city, Geneva, with the train, we go right into the city and then just do the last mile by truck. And we are planning to expand that to other cities in Switzerland as well. Of course, we're profiting there from a really good train network. But still, there was like that last portion that was still on fossil-based fuels. And back then, really, we also tried out battery electric trucks in 2014. That was rather a disaster than anything else, to be frank. It was not an OEM manufactured truck, so there was more pointing fingers on where the problem lied if they were not operating. So yeah, the question was then really, heads were stick together, and the question was asked, okay, what's more? And also the question was asked, how would an future energy system look like, and not just particularly the transport system. So, and for that, it was also like, one had a look on, okay, what does the energy sector say? So it was apparent that hydrogen itself will play a important role in the future's energy system, not just focusing on the transport system. So especially in Switzerland, for example, our electricity system is mainly composed of hydro power plants and nuclear power plants. That means we have a lot of steady supply of electricity, which is indicated by that blue curve on the top left. With the plan to opt out of nuclear power plants, and with the introduction of a lot of renewables, mainly PV and wind, we're basically introducing a lot of intermittent energy and fluctuating energy or electricity. So that's depicted on the right, a bit exaggerated by that not steady supply of electricity. So hydrogen basically is, or has the ability to balance these fluctuations out with, so-called peak shavings, and balancing these peak loads to store surplus electricity when it's not needed. And, you can also then transport and distribute that stored energy. So hydrogen can take up different roles. So in the industry sector for steel and chemical industry, also in the mobility sector with fuel cells, e-fuels is also one of these buzzwords that you hear all the time in recent years. I think that is also probably becoming important in the aviation sector. You can also use it for process heat, heating sectors, and like I said, for transport medium, for energy. Exactly. And then the question was asked, so what drives, the shape of the future transport system? So there are different players in that market that might be impacted by the transition of the transport system or that have a direct impact. So let me start with the bottom one, policymakers, politics, obviously. They introduce bans, regulatory measures, but also like subsidies to promote certain energy carriers or drivetrains. But you also have petrol station operators, right? That will ask themselves, okay, how can I survive in a world where maybe fossil fuels will be declining? How does the gas station of the future look like? What additional services should I provide? What is with all my infrastructure that is already existing? So they will have a say in that or need to adapt. And then, of course, market and technology, like the manufacturers, they're meeting the demand of renewable or alternative drivetrains. And it's mainly, electric motors displacing combustion engines, and being it battery electric or fuel cell doesn't really matter. And then, last but not least, utility vehicle operators. So there's a lot of uncertainty, right? So what does my fleet in the future look like? Well, what are the costs? But we were also convinced that sustainable technology serves as a basis for future competitiveness in the market, because the demand will be here for these, low carbon services, if you will. So considering these two aspects, the question that arose was basically, okay, chicken or egg, or in this case, hydrogen trucks or hydrogen gas stations, what comes first? So one doesn't go without the other. And basically, the main consensus, basically, if you will, was that 21 major companies in retail, transport, logistics in Switzerland basically supported that hydrogen mobility plan. The initiative was taken by us, if I may say, and as you can see, like these companies, they bring already a lot of experience and knowledge in different fields together. So they have experience in logistics and transport, like the petrol station operators. They know how to build a network of gas stations. We had one company that does vehicle import and logistics. So the knowledge about infrastructure, so gas stations, that was there, but the knowledge for building a hydrogen truck was not. So the main mission was basically to find a manufacturer that was willing to produce a truck specifically for that project. And luckily, such a company was found in the form of Hyundai. Back then, they recognized, that was in 2018, that Switzerland would offer basically market conditions and also network conditions that would make up for an interesting case. And just to give you an overview, what basically that association that was basically formed, they had a couple of goals that they wanted to meet for that initiative or that project. So by the end of 2023, there should be a nationwide hydrogen gas station network. The hydrogen that should be being used was solely to be comprised of green hydrogen, because otherwise it wouldn't make much sense. These public gas stations, they should be operated with 350 and 700 bars, so that both passenger cars and trucks can basically refill. It had to be a private sector initiative, so we didn't want to rely on government funding or public funding money, and the cost effectiveness should be ensured for all the players that were part of this project. And then also, make use of pooling of technology, standards, and know-how. So that is one of the main important aspects. I just want to quickly show you or run through, how the hydrogen is produced in Switzerland for that. So it is from run-of-river power plants. That's the main energy source, where then, an electrolyzer is powered by that. That produced hydrogen is then, delivered to the gas station. These trucks fill up their tanks, drive around, and then the water vapor, which is the end result, then condenses again, and basically the water cycle is closed. Personally, I find that to be a nice picture or a nice story, which makes sense in itself. And then also, just to give you quick facts about these, the logistic kind of things. So the hydrogen is basically stored in these containers there at 350 bar, and each container has the capacity to store 350 kilograms of hydrogen. These containers are then transported by trucks to the respective gas station, where basically just the containers are being swapped. So empty containers are loaded up, and then the full ones are connected there to the gas station again. So it's just a swapping of containers, really. And the electrolyzer that is pictured on the top left is a 2 megawatt electrolyzer with a capacity of 300 tons of hydrogen per year. In regards to the gas station network, so all the blue points that you see here is by the end of this year, actually. That's the network that we have, and you see that they go along an axis, and this axis it's not a coincidence that it's like that. That's where the main industry region of Switzerland basically lies. So it was important to have these aligned with the highways there, so that that you have sort of a dense network there. You can see in the south there is not so much going on. We have 2 operating electrolyzers at the moment. The third one will be coming on the network. I'm not even sure if it's this year or next year, but shortly, to meet that demand. Just for illustration purposes, that's how such a hydrogen gas station looks like. So it's pretty normal, like a normal diesel gas station, pretty much. The fueling uptime is like 5 minutes or something, so it's rather quick. And there's really not much to it, just from the outside. Maybe from the economic side of things. So the underlying formula or the calculation was that we need 15 hydrogen trucks with 100,000 kilometers a year to basically operate one of these gas stations in an economical, feasible manner. And one important aspect that I have to mention is the TCO per kilometer was basically on par or in a comparable level with diesel, but only because the heavy vehicle charge that is in place in Switzerland is exempt for alternative drive trains. So without that, the business case would not be feasible. But I have to say this rule that was already in place before that whole initiative started, basically. That's a picture of these trucks, how they look like. I'm not going to go through all the details. The most interesting one's probably the range. So we can do approximately 400 kilometers with one full tank. The total weight including the trailer, is 36 tons. The loading capacity of just the truck itself is a bit more over 5 tons. And as I said, like the filling time for fueling up is around 5 minutes. And then maybe some key facts from the daily operation with these trucks, our experiences. So we have 7 of them in our fleet. So we do around 70 to 80,000 kilometers a year. Some of them even 90,000. So the trailer tow is possible. That is not an issue. We have on average 1 refueling per day. There is no real special training needed for drivers. A short time to familiarize with the truck. There is no difficulty whatsoever in the Swiss topography. As you might know, we're quite a hilly little country. We use them with isolated and refrigerated bodies, so they work normally on a normal basis like diesel trucks. And they have a lifting platform, and we can load up to 17 euro pallets into the body. like the bottom line is we really, when they're operating, we don't have any restrictions at all. They're really reliable. There's not much maintenance going on there, or unplanned maintenance, let's put it that way. So they're running really reliable. And as a last, maybe just to finish that up, so one of the most important thing was also to have that business ecosystem that served as a model for success for that startup phase, basically. As I said, that initiative, those were countries coming from retail, logistics, gas station operators. So we didn't have any experience in engineering related to hydrogen, operating electrolyzers, etc. So one of the key players was this company H2 Energy. That's a Swiss company. They have a lot of experience with hydrogen, but not in the transport sector. But so they formed with Hyundai. They formed together like that joint venture, Hyundai Hydrogen Mobility, which is basically the key player that, together with other entities, basically finance these vehicles. Because it's important to say that all of the operators or all of the companies that own or operate these trucks, they don't own them. So we didn't buy these trucks, so we use or operate them in a pay-per-use model. So we pay a certain price per kilometer. So these trucks, they don't belong to us. I think these are 7 or 8 year contracts where you operate them in. And another important company is the Hydrospider one. That's also comprised of several other companies, so electricity suppliers, logistic companies, and basically Hydrospiders guarantees to supply and operates these electrolyzers. They do all the logistics with the containers. And then also, last but not least, these trucks then are required to refuel, basically, or use the hydrogen gas stations that are within that network. So they're not really allowed to, if there would be any other gas station, to use them. So for me, that project, it's a beautiful project in the sense that it happened because, yeah, we did it. I mean, in the market, these companies that are within that initiative, they're competitors, simply put that way, and they interact on the same level. But we all had the goal to, provide a service that none of us basically would have been able to do themselves. So for me, that's really a beautiful example of what can be achieved through collaboration, not wanting to wait until politics move. As we can know, that can be really, really slow. And the most important thing is also the learning was breaking down boundaries between sectors, between competitors, and really sit together and talk, and to see, what can be achieved through a common goal. And the last two pictures are basically just to show you, they summarize pretty much what I said. So these are 3 of those trucks. The one on the left one is our ones. The one in the middle one is the one from our main competitor. So basically it shows, we're working together. And the one on the right is also a company that is active in the retail sector. And this one that was taken last year in October, where you see all these trucks lined up from these different transport companies, and they celebrated the 5th million kilometer that was, driven combined with all those trucks. So, with that, I'm at the end of the main part. I'm sure there will probably be some questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Well, the trucks are still running up and running. It doesn't take a genius to, when you look at the electricity prices from last year, the business case took quite a big hit with that. Hyundai Hydrogen Mobility, they offered a bit the ways that you can basically buy or rent and pay per their model. So they adapted that a bit, like going from an all carefree model that it used to be, that included the maintenance, that included the truck, that included the fuel, to a bit more, scaled down version to try and, counter-attack those market developments. And also they're active now, quite heavily active in Germany, as I know, because their German politics has a bit of a different way. So there the trucks are subsidized by the government, so the surplus price that you pay for those. Yeah.
What about the weight of the truck? Because you mentioned something.
Mm-hmm.
If I read it correct, the cargo is a lot less.
It is a lot less. And I guess it then depends what kind of goods you're transporting with it. For us, in the retail sector, it's not that big of an issue. We don't have these heavily dense products. But I see for other industries that might be a problem as well. Yeah.
How do you take this to other countries?
Like us? No. I mean, we don't actively pursue that, basically. All we do is we showed that it can work, but we know that it's easier to build something like that probably in Switzerland, because we also have we have clean electricity, and it's probably easier to set up also a network. We're much smaller than, if you want to set up a dense gas station network in Germany, it takes a lot more than 18 gas stations as we have. So yeah.
Inside or outside this project to look to this non-fuel cell hydrogen use, because from an economic perspective that should be much better.
What should be much? Sorry, I didn't understand.
Driving non-fuel cell
Yeah.
hydrogen trucks
Yeah.
are 70% cheaper
Mm-hmm.
than fuel cell trucks. Should be an opportunity to make the calculation right.
Yeah, that's true. I guess still the issue still remains, because right now what we're having, the issue is really the production of the hydrogen. That's the bottleneck. That's the limiting factor also in Switzerland. I mean, that problem would still remain, but that's an interesting point. Since we are not in the engineering department of Hyundai, I don't know what they're, because Hyundai has a really strong history with the fuel cells. That's a bit of the thing, yeah. But that's true, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your attention.
I guess. Thank you very much. And then you can just go to the